Hello, welcome to Cloud Channel. In this module, we will learn how to create and connect to a MySQL instance and perform some basic SQL operations by using the Google Cloud Console. And in this session, we will learn how to create instances in Google Cloud, and I'll show you how to create instance and how to create the root user and how we can connect to our SQL instance, MySQL instance using MySQL Workbench. I will perform all these operations in Google Cloud Console. So let me log into Google Cloud Console. I'm in the Google Cloud Console page. So here in the I need to go to Google Cloud SQL instances. Just click on here and go down and click on SQL. Now we should be able to see the Cloud SQL instances page. So now we need to create a new instance. So I'll click on create instance. So here we see a full database engine. So now we need to select our database engine. So in this module, we'll be using MySQL. Uh, I will show you how to create this MySQL instance and connect using MySQL Workbench. And I will also show you how to perform some basic SQL operations, create database and insert some data and query using MySQL Bench. And before we connect, I'll show you create this MySQL instance and how we configure we need to allow our IP address to connect to this SQL instance. So I will tell you the recommendations how we can authorize our networks to connect to this SQL instance. So let me select MySQL here and choose MySQL. And now I need to create an instance. So I will call my instance as instance MySQL 01, and the user is the root user. So now we need to create a password. We need to generate a new password, and I'll just create a password to log in with this root user. Or you can also select no password, but that is not recommended. So I select to use the password to connect to this SQL instance. And the database version here, we can see that we have three versions available: MySQL 5.6, MySQL 5.7, and MySQL 8.0. So I will select the latest version that is available here in the database version. And now we need to choose a configuration to start with. And here we can see that suggested configurations will fulfill this form as a starting point for creating an instance. So we can customize as needed. I'll show you how we can customize and how we can edit even after creating this instance. So now we have two available here. One is for production environment and other one is development. Since this is a demo purpose, so I will select the development. And this is not highly available, but just to reduce the cost and also less compute and storage. So, and let's look at the configuration details here. So here we can see the difference between production and the development configuration. So the production availability is high, and the development is just a single zone. And also we see the CPU for production 4 and development 2, and the memory also there is a difference, but storage there is no difference. And we can make all these changes. Now we need to choose a region and zonal availability. So for better performance, we keep our data close to the services that we need it. So region is permanent, which zone can be changed anytime. So now here we see all the regions available. So I will select US East one, South Carolina. So now the zonal availability is single zone. And if we want to change the zonal availability, we can change it, and multiple zones. There is like slight difference in the cost, but I will select the single zone since this is just development and demo purpose. And now we need to customize our instances. So let's look at the mission type. So here the customs, as I mentioned earlier, we can customize our instance. And here, if you select for CPU, we can select. I will just keep the lowest one. And here you can also see that high memory, standard, lightweight, all these available mission type. Let's look at the storage. And SSD recommended, and HDD lower performance than SSD with lower storage rates. But since this is a demo, but I will just use the SSD. That's not a big deal. And the storage capacity, I will just use 100 GB for now. And connections, public IP enabled, because I'll show you how to connect using MySQL Workbench from my local machine. And authorized network, we can add a network. So all you need to do, just type my IP, just like select a name. I'll just say my IP, and we need to enter the IP address. Let's say your computer IP address. Let's say this is just an example I'm just giving you. So just like we need to select, go to your command, or go to just Google, just look for what's my IP address, and just use that command, and then use that IP address if you want to connect from your local machine. But if you are connecting from some organization or anything, if you have an IP address, and you need to make sure you add that IP if you enable the public IP. And if you want to use a private IP, then we can assign an internal Google hosted VPC IP address, but it requires additional APIs and permission. So this is how we can add the IP address. So I will add this later. So make sure you add the network. And if you forget while you deploying SQL instance, you can add it later also. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that. And the data protection, automate backups, and enable point in time recovery, and enable deletion protection. So you can disable it if you want, like to delete the server. But this is just a demo, so I will just disable it. But even if I enable it, I will show you how to disable it later by editing this SQL instance after deploying. And maintenance, so any window, anytime, but you can change it later, earlier, or Monday, Sunday. It's up to you. And flags, no flags set, and no query inside. So now everything looks good. So we can just look at here summary. We choose the region US East, and DB version, the latest one, 8.0, and two CPUs and memory 3.75 GB, 100 GB storage. And everything looks here, backup automated, and availability single zone, point in time recovery also enabled. And we enable the public IP to connect to our SQL instance. So now let me create this instance. Now instance is being created, so it may take just a few minutes to deploy this SQL instance in Google Cloud. While this instance is being created, I'll just walk you through a few of the other details. And here, if you want to see the CPU utilization for this instance, and you can select it. Let's say I want to see the CPU utilization last 1 day, we can just select. And if you want to look at the CPU utilization for last 30 days, you can just select. And also you can make the custom range, and where you can just mention the date and then end date. Example, if your production server is not performing good and you want to take a look at the utilization, let's see if there are more ETL jobs running, or if some user is keep running, or maybe consuming all CPU utilization. So you can keep monitor. And you can also look at the other options here, total memory usage, and active connections, and you want to see the active connections last 6 hours or last one day, how many are active connections. Based on that, you can always scale up and scale down, and you can also see the disk read, write, storage usage, and all the metric options available here. And the configuration, we can see it here. The configuration is two CPUs and memory 3.75, and we are using SSD storage 100 GB. And this is the connection name. And here you can see that our SQL instance connection name. And we will use this connection name to connect from our local computer using MySQL Outbrain. But even if you are at working at some organization, just use the connection name and the address that you configure using private IP. So most of are recommended is the private IP, because enabling public IP anyone can access if they have a proper detail. But enabling private IP, so that you are restricting connections to connect to your SQL instance. You're restricting to access your instance. And uh, here we can see the other details, the database version, and auto storage increase is enabled, backup is enabled, point in time also enabled, and we can see that where it is located, where is our instance located. It is located in US East 1, and here you can see that the creation time. And also on the bottom of the page, you can see on the right side that creating our instance, we can see it. So instance is being created. So once this is available, we can see all these options in blue. That means the instance is ready to connect. So, and I'll show you how to edit the configuration details if we want. So I know I'm giving you a lot of details because it helps you to understand this MySQL instance, how we can create in Google Cloud, and how we can monitor, and how we can edit our configuration and the later, so that we can keep an eye on everything. And also if you want to stop your instance, so that you don't get charged, so we can just click on this stop. Right now this is not enabled because our server is still deploying. Now the instance is created. Now we see that everything is available. Restart, stop, clone, and then delete. We enable deletion protection, so we cannot delete the server. But I'll show you how to edit that option. So here, click on edit. Just click on edit, and then here you can come back the data protection. Now just disable this one. Now you can just save it. Now if you go back to the page, then we should be able to see that this is enabled, so that we can see that. Okay, so now we need to connect to this instance. So now we can see that option, delete. And I'll show you one more thing, the IP address. If you forget to add earlier, you can just here click on edit, and then just say add your IP address. I'll just say my IP, and we need to enter your IP address and save it. Without add your IP address, you are not able to connect. And please make sure you add your the IP address. If you're connecting local mission, or if you're connecting organization or whatever, you make sure you allow that IP to connect to this instance. Now I will open the MySQL Workbench, and I will also need to add my IP. Let me just get it done. I'll go to MySQL Workbench, click on the connection. So now we need to enter the connection details and the host name and the password to connect to our SQL instance in Google Cloud. So now let me get all these details. So here the public IP address, take the public IP address, and enter the address to connect to this instance. Okay, now I need to get the connection name. Just go here and enter the connection name. So our connection name is, this is the project ID, project name, and then the location, and then our instance name, and then our username is root. So now I need to use the password to connect to this instance. Remember that we created a password while we deploying the SQL instance, so we need to use the same password because that password we created for root user to connect to this SQL, our MySQL instance in Google Cloud, from our local computer, or anything, not even local computer, or from your machine or wherever you're working. And now let's test the connection. So now we see that the connection is successfully made the MySQL connection, and the hostname, everything. Now let me click OK and click OK. So everything looks good here. Now let me open the SQL, opening the SQL editor. Now I will show you guys how to create the database and create a table and insert some records and just query. So now we are able to connect to our Cloud SQL instance in Google Cloud using MySQL Workbench from our local machine. Now let's run some few queries. So now I'll just create a database. It's just called let me create it, just like, let's say create database, geography database, or it could be anything. You can just say create database table one and just insert some few records, or create a database employee and just enter some employee ID, create employee ID and the name, and just insert couple of records and query. So now let me create this database. Now we can see that the database is created, one row is affected. Now I want to use this the database, and then we can just say that use geography. Say use geography and execute this. Now I will just create a table in this geography database. So I will call the table as the create table as the cities. Now I just use the two attributes. One is city and other one is country. Let's create this table. So now we see that all our SQL commands are executed and successful, no errors. The table is created. Now I will insert just a few records. Let's say, let me insert a record that insert into this cities table. And the values are one city is San Francisco, where it is located, country, USA. And you can also enter any other city, it's up to you, or you can use the other table as example, or you can just use your data model if you want to start, like, create tables and load the data and use this MySQL as your target. So let me execute this, and one record is inserted. Let me add up one more record. I'm going to add just one more record so that we can query. We have enough sample data to query. Now we need to run the few queries. We say select star from the cities table. I'll just say cities table. Now let's see what we have in our table. So now we have the details. Now we have the records in our table, the city, San Francisco, Beijing, and country, USA, China. We just inserted that data. So let me just run one more query, just order by, like, just use order by and select start from the cities table and order by city, and let's see. So now we get the results as expected. So all our SQL statements are successful. And let me give you, like, a quick overview what we discussed in this module. But if you have any questions on this module, like, about, like, deploying MySQL instance, or about Cloud SQL instance, or connect to that MySQL, if you have any questions about Google Cloud, just, like, post, do not hesitate. Please post all your questions in the comments, and I'll try to reply as soon as possible. So let me quickly go through, like, what we covered in this module. So I'll just go here. So in this module, we covered how to create the instances, like Cloud SQL instances. We had different database engines, but we selected the MySQL instance, and we created that MySQL instance, and we configured that, like we use the development, and we enable the network, like which network should connect to this SQL instance, and also we enable, like automated backups and point in time recovery. And also we learn, like how to check the metrics by using these options, by using this chart. And we learn, like how to how to establish the connection using MySQL Workbench, and how we enter the connection details, the connection instance name and the host and all the details. And we were able to create the database, and we created a table and inserted records and query from that table. So all these are successful. We didn't face any issues. But if you are facing any issues, and please post your error detail and the question that you have, please give me some detail, so that when I look at your question, so that I can reply, like in a better way, so that it will help you to resolve your issue, and then, like start using this Cloud SQL instances. Yeah, but if you like this video, if you like this module, please subscribe and share the channel. And again, thanks for watching, and please subscribe my channel. Thank you.